as possible. Okay, so next we have given a simple algorithm. Everybody can work over it, and we have shown that the 9 questions are sufficient to ask this question. So this is a simple just a game. Okay, now if we come to say a little bit, you make it problem a little bit, extend this problem. Now let us suppose that you have 25 coin. They all are look-alike coin, and they have one counterfeit coin among them. Counterfeit coin, and let us suppose it is given that this coin is lighter coin. You have 25 coin, सब एक जैसे दिखाई देते हैं, दिखने में सब एक जैसे हैं, पर उनमें एक कॉइन जो है वो थोड़ा हल्का है, लाइटर है वेट में. सो हाउ मेनी वेइंग, एक बीम बैलेंस पर कितनी वेइंग चाहिए? एक बीम बैलेंस गिवन है, लेफ्ट बैलेंस है, राइट बैलेंस है, दैट्स ऑल. कितनी वेइंग चाहिए कि आपको काउंटरफिट कॉइन पता लग जाए? नाउ we can hit and try, we can apply our mind also. Let us apply the concept of entropy. Now there are 25 coin, any coin can be the lighter coin. So the uncertainty in the experiment is equal to log of 25, that is 4.644 bits. Now one weighing has 3 possible answers. If you do one time weighing, then you can get the 3 possible answer. Left beam is lighter, say its probability is PL. Right beam is lighter, say its probability is PR. And both beams are equal, say its probability is PE. Okay, now when left beam is lighter, we say that the lighter coin is on the left side. When right beam is lighter, we say the lighter coin is on the right side. And when the both are equal, we say that lighter coin is not on any side, it is on the ground. It is not being weighed even. Okay, so total probability PL plus PR plus P is equal to 1. So the amount of information expected from a weighing is entropy of PL, PR, PE, and it will always be less than equal to entropy of 1 by 3, 1 by 3, 1 by 3, because the maxima is log 3. So it is equal to 1.58 bits. So what I want to say that in whatsoever intelligent way you think, the maximum entropy which can be removed in one weighing is 1.58 bits. But you have the entropy that is 1.58 bits, or you can say log of 3 to the base 2, but you have entropy in the system log of 25 to the base 2. So we can simply calculate that number of weighing must be greater than or equal to 2.93. Now weighing are complete weighing, it can be either 2 or it can be either 3. So number of weighing should be 3. So entropy, this gives us the answer that this can be coin can be identified in the 3 weighing. We can very easily check that divide the 25 coin in 3 equal part. Of course, equal cannot be divided. That's 8, 8 and 9. On the first stage, we can take the one lot 8, 8, and we can do 4, 4. In the first stage, we can put the 8 on the one pan, 8 second 8 on the other pan, and 9 on the ground. Then we will be able to identify the coin in one group. And similarly, in the second weighing and third weighing, we can identify the coin. So all this is not a game. What we recognize here that in the number case, thinking number from 1 to 512, the answer was binary, yes or no. There were only 2 alternates. In the weighing case, there were 3 alternates, left, right, equal. So if there are n equally probable outcomes, and if there are n equally probable outcome, and if say d alternates are available, then the k must be greater than or equal to logarithm of n to the base d to solve this type of a problem, this type of a uncertain problem. Now, this concept of entropy has been used a lot of in economics and marketing and finance. Okay, in finance, basically, to measure the variability of the financial series in the Black-Scholes formula, we normally use variance as the to measure the volatility. But concept of entropy has also been used, and there is a lot of publications available. I just give the idea that how entropy can be used as a measure of competition in a market. Let us suppose that you consider a mobile market and say, as on today in Indian market, say 10 brands have share in the market. 10 brands are there which are selling in the market. Now let us suppose PI is the share of the ith brand. Share percentage you can always change the share in terms of fraction. Okay, let PI is the share of the ith brand. So what we have got in case of mobile industry, say 10 brands are there. So we have got P1, P2, P3, P10 as the share of the 10 brands. So then this entropy, I going from 1 to 10, say PI log PI, gives you a measure of competition. That this is the competition in the mobile industry. Oh, now because this leads to this thing. Any tendency towards the equalization of PI increases H. Now equalization of PI. Equalization of PI means there are 10 brand. Equalization of PI means that every PI is approaching towards 1 by 10. So every PI approaches towards 1 by 10, HP is having the maximum value. When you say that every brand is having almost the equal share, it means competition is very high. Even comparable PI increase in N increases H. Say some new brands come in the market and it has comparable PI. Well, it has quite a reasonable PI, reasonable proportion. It means again entropy will increase, competition has increased. So let us suppose that at some stage that share of a particular brand is 1, not exactly 1, that it's almost 1. When a share of a particular brand is almost 1, it means that brand is having monopoly now. Because when the share of a particular brand is 1, it means share of the others are almost 0. So if PI equal to 1 and all others are 0, so H gives to be 0. So it is a case of a monopoly. So in this case, this entropy function can be considered to quantize the concept of competition in a specific market. Now, before I go to its application, I will start certain slides because it will become otherwise lengthy. Before I go to, then there is a concept of, we develop it properly mathematically, that there is a concept of joint entropy. Joint entropy is the entropy associated with the joint experiment. And we say that the entropy associated with the joint experiment is less than or equal to the marginal entropy until or unless equality hold when these are independent. Then there is a concept of conditional entropy also. Naturally, whenever we have the joint probability distribution, we have the conditional probability distribution. So I would like to skip a few slides and then I would like to give its applications in the field of communication. So what exactly its application in the field of communication? Okay, that I would like to give. So in communication, in the context in which it was derived. So communication system. What is this communication system? A basic communication system can be represented like this. Source, for example, I am speaking, I am the source. Okay. Encoder. Encoder means that message from the source cannot be passed on the channel from immediate as it is. For example, message you type on the keyboard, everything is converted into the binary system and then it is processed. So encoder is that which encode the message in that form which is possible to pass over the channel. Now channel, any media through which the message is passed on is called the channel. For example, cable, for example, environment, all these are the channel. Decoder. Decoder basically is an inverse function of the encoder. That because destination wants the message in the form as it was transferred from the source. So decoder does the inverse function which was done by the encoder. So that is the form of the decoder. So noise is something which creeps into the channel, that which try to disturb the message. For example, scratch on the dice, scratch on the disk is some sort of noise. Okay. For example, there is a form of a thermal noise also that would disturb the message. Okay. So this is the basic model of the communication system. And what is information theory? Information theory basically is an attempt to construct a mathematical model for each of the block in communication system without arriving at the design or physical construction. That constructing a mathematical model for each of the block is basically the information system theory, and designing comes a part of the technology. So we will be, this all started in the year 1948. Shannon, he published a paper, The Mathematical Theory of Communication, in the journal Bell System of Technology. And basically, he was interested, he thought that communication message can be considered random in nature, and he wanted to measure the uncertainty associated with a random message. Okay. And for this, he gave the concept of entropy, which we have told earlier, which I have told earlier. Now, with the passing of time, it has found application in many fields. So I basically outlined its application in the noiseless coding. So what exactly is a noiseless coding that we outline the message? Now, in what is the noiseless coding problem? Noiseless coding problem, basically there is a source and then there is an encoder. Now, encoder has to code the message given by the source, and we assume that there is no noise on the channel. So it means that message should be encoded in such a fashion that maximum message should be passed in the minimum time. But with one condition, that this messages should be uniquely decodable. Uniquely decodable means that we should be able to apply the inverse work, that no coded message should give us ambiguous message, original message. There should not be any ambiguity. It should be decoded in a proper form. So what are the input for the noiseless coding problem? Input for the noiseless coding problem is there is a source X with X1, X2, Xn with probability distribution P1, P2, Pn, which will generate a sequence. Let us suppose a sequence has been generated X1, X5, X3, X6. For example, your keys on the your computer is a source, and you just type 4 letter ASHA, Asha, and that is the message. Then now this message is to be coded. Then there is a set of code character A1, A2. This is AD, capital D. You can take it as a capital D. Okay. Then there is a set of code character in which the message is to be coded. How it is coded? That Xi is to be assigned a specific output from the keyboard is to be assigned a finite sequence of code character. For example, in case of our laptop or computer, a specific outcome is assigned a finite sequence of 0 or 1, because everything is changed in the binary system. So in that case, D will be 2. So in general, we assume it to be D, and let the coded message for Xi be A1, A2 or anything else. So the collection of all code words is called a code. That we have formed a code word for X1, we have formed a code word for X2, we have formed a code word for Xn. So all this code word forms a code. For example, a standard code is the ASCII code, but in that ASCII code, every code word has a same length. So in this case, we are assuming that it can be length, can be variable also. It is in general, it is a variable length. Okay. Now, in case, now what is our aim? The objective of noiseless coding, as I have already mentioned, to minimize the average code word length. That is, if the code word associated with Xi is of length Li, then our aim will be to find uniquely decodable code that minimize the average code word length summation I from 1 to n pi li, where pi is the probability of the symbol xi from the source. So now problem was that what can be the minimization of the average code word length under one condition, that message are uniquely decipherable. Message are uniquely decipherable. Uniquely decipherable. I just give you one example. For example, that let x1, x2, x3, 4 is a source, and let somehow or the other we have coded this as 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, and 1, 0. Now, if we look at this, if we get the message 0, 1, 0, we find in this case that it can be decoded as x3. Similarly, it can be decoded as x1. It can be decoded as x2, x1 also, and it can be decoded as x1, x4 also. So thus, this cannot be decoded accurately, and we cannot afford this thing in case of a reliable communication. So message is uniquely decipherable if every finite sequence of code character corresponds to at most one message. So that was the way. Now, one way of doing this is that your coding should be prefix-free code. What do you mean by prefix-free code? Prefix-free code means that no code word should be the prefix of other code word. For example, the code which we have considered here 0 is the prefix of 0, 1. Even 0, 1 is the prefix of 0, 1, 0. So if this is not the case, then the message is uniquely decodable. Message is unique. For example, you consider this code x1 0, x2 100, x3 100, 101, x4 11. So it is a prefix. It is a prefix-free code. No code word is a prefix of the other code word. So here, if we get any sequence, I have given an example of sequence, this can be decoded in the uniform way. So one thing we have got, that every prefix-free code is uniquely decipherable. But it is not necessarily that the converse is true. We can get a code which is not prefix-free code, but it is uniquely decodable. I have given the simple example, x1 0, x2 0, 1. Say our source is having only 2 letters, and this is. Now here definitely 0 is a prefix of 0, 1. But whatever message you get, let us suppose we get this sequence. Okay, it can be decoded like this uniquely, because where there is 0 before 1, it is to be decoded as x2. Otherwise, it is to be decoded as x1. Okay, so this was now how to test. There is a well-defined procedure that how to test whether a given code is UD code or not. That I am not going to explain. And there is a well-defined programs can be programs are there available for there, because as far as which I am giving, it's a very simple example. Otherwise, practically you may get a very lengthy code. So well-established Python programming Python language are available. So in which we can check that whether a given code is uniquely decodable or not. Okay, so we can always check whether a given code is uniquely decodable or not. There is a well-defined procedure for this is available. So now question arises, let us suppose, it's a very important, existence of prefix-free code. It was a great problem. Let us suppose your mentor has given you a problem that there is a source x1, x2, xn. Code alphabets are A1, A2, AD. That code alphabet has the size capital D. And say he has put the constraint also. The x1 should have code word of length L1, x2 should have a code word of length L2, and xn should have a code word of length L. Now question comes, is it possible to construct a prefix code such that Lk is the length of the code word corresponding to the symbol xk? Is it always possible? Let me consider a very simple example first. Say n equal to 3, that their source is x1, x2, x3, d equal to 2, that their code alphabets are binary 0 and 1. And let us suppose L1 is equal to 1, L2 is equal to 2. Please read it as a 2, red block. L2 is equal to 2 and L3 is equal to 3. Now, if we want to do it, then a possible code is 010110. Now we easily find that it is a prefix free code, prefix code. So it can be constructed. Now let us go other way. Say n equal to 3, d equal to 2, and L1 equal to L2 equal to L3 equal to 1. Or you can say L1 equal to, even you can take L1 equal to L2 equal to 1 and say L3 equal to 2, whatsoever case you do. So can we construct a prefix code here? Now say L1 equal to 1, you give it 0. L2 equal to 1, you give it 1 because 0 has already been given. Now L3 is equal to 2. Now if you want to make L3 is equal to 2, L3 is equal to 2, L3 is equal to 2, then it can be 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1. Whatsoever we assign, that fails this code. The code does not become a prefix. So what was the answer? So to this question was given by a very important Craft inequality, which is the basis for all coding. Answer to given was this Craft inequality, that a prefix code with code word length L1, L2, Ln exists if and only if I from 1 to n d raised to power minus li is less than equal to 1. That if n, d and li satisfy this inequality, only then you can say that the prefix code exists. Otherwise, it's not possible. So this came as a very fundamental result in case of coding. Okay. Now,
Sir,
yes.
Can you please summarize within 5 minutes?
5 minutes, okay. So basically now come the noiseless coding problem. So let us suppose that now we have come to this conclusion that this can be the possibility of creation of the code is available. Now we want to say that what can be the minimum average length. Say you have come with some answers that this is the code. Your mentor says, no, this is not a suitable code. Construct a code which has average length less than this. Now came this concept that what can be the minimum possible? What can be the minimum possible? And this was the main application of the entropy. I just skipped some slides. So it was found that if prefix free code existed, then the minimum average length for the prefix free code will be given by this entropy function, I from 1 to n pi log PID, where pi is P1, P2, Pn is the source distribution and d is the size of the code character. And this equality can be achieved if pi is equal to d raised to power minus li. Now one thing comes that pi equal to d raised to power minus li, if we just simplify it, then li comes out to be minus log pi to the base d, which may or may not be an integer. So what can be the best? So it was found that the best case can be that minimum can be this. If you are able to achieve minima, this हम इससे कम length नहीं बना सकते. Then using that concept, it was possible that if we are not able to achieve the minima, then we can achieve within 1 digit of the minima, that minus log pi log dpi less than is equal to L bar minus log pi. It can be achieved within 1 digit. So this was the main application of the entropy in the source coding theorem at that time. Okay. Then there is a concept of block coding also. Block coding shows that if you don't code the individual symbol, instead of individual symbols, you code the block of the symbol, that 2 messages at a time are being coded, then we can show that we can achieve the we can narrow this the length of the interval. In fact, if you make a block of size s, then mathematically we can show that we can narrow that interval of length 1 to the interval of length 1 by s. But this increases already This also increases some complexity in the situation. One other part, of course, block code. Now, how to construct the optimal code? How to construct the optimal code without going into much detail? I just demonstrate one method, Huffman method of coding. Now, these days, very advanced method is also available. Limbs method is available, and other methods are available. I just give one example that how to construct the optimal binary code. Now, let us suppose we have a source x1, x2, xn, read n here as 6. Let us suppose 6 messages are there with probability distribution this. So how can we do it? Just write the messages in the decreasing order of their probability, that the message with the higher probability is at the top and message with the least probability is at the end. Okay, then combine the two least probable symbol. Here x5 and x6 are the least probable symbol. We combine it to make it x56, read it as 56, not 56. Okay, and its total probability become 0.15, and we have given it a proper space. Again, in the next line, they are in the decreasing order. So doing this process step by step, taking 2 from the back, just making it as a juxtaposition, putting it at a proper place and doing it. Ultimately, what we get 2 symbols, x12 and x3, 4, 5, 6 with this probability. Now we are free to assign, say we assign 0 to x12 and 1 to x3, 4, 5, 6, and then we move backward. Backward in the sense that x12 was obtained from the symbol x1 and x2. So to x1, so 0 is already being carried out. So x1 is assigned 0, 0, x2 is assigned 0 already comes from x12, x2 is assigned as a 0, 1. x3, x4, x5, 6 came from the symbol 3 and 4, 5, 6, just immediate preceding step. And we have broken it as 1, 0, 1, 1, and so on going this. So ultimately, we get the code for x1, x2, x3, x4, x5, x6. So this is a prefix code. This is the way when n is large, we have well-defined program in Python to write the code for this. And basically, we observe here, even this code is not unique because at various stages, we had number of choices. Even at the first stage, we had choice to give 1 to x12 and 0 to 3, 4, 5, 6. And also we have in between choices, but whatever choice we exploit, the average probability will be the same. So I have just run through the few slides. I have told you the observations. So this was the concept of entropy, specifically finding application in source coding. Now, literature is available where applications of entropy are there in finance and other things. Even we have our own work working on the application of entropy in the finance and good publications also. So I think within the constraint of time, this is from my side. Now questions are welcome.
Okay, on behalf of everyone, I would like to thank Professor Taneja for an interesting presentation. Now participant can ask the questions. So I'm seeing one question from in the chat box. It is from Amit. Why Shannon entropy is defined with log function?
Why Shannon entropy is defined with the log function? Basically, I told that we have taken some assumption that entropy is non-negative and entropy is additive. HPQ is equal to HP plus HQ. Those who are having the knowledge of the functional equations, the solution of this functional equation comes out to be minus log p, minus k log p. That's why it is coming entropy as a log function. Yes.
Another question is, what is the form of Shannon entropy in quantum information theory?
What is the form of Shannon? As far as quantum information theory is concerned, in classical information theory, we consider 0 and 1. But in quantum information theory, in classical information theory, we consider the concept of complete bit. But in classical information theory, we consider the concept of even the half bit. Okay, so that is done in the form of eigenvalue of the 2 by 2 matrices in case of a in case of a distribution.
Okay.
I may not be able to, frankly speaking, I may not be able to give much detail about the quantum information theory, but it is a well-defined, we can define the concept of entropy in quantum, taking the concept of half bit also, and that's what it makes the more general than the classical information.
One more question, sir, from Dr. Gyanendra Pratap Singh. What is the difference between quantum uncertainty and classical uncertainty?
I think I have explained. Quantum uncertainty is classical uncertainty. We are taking the concept of complete bit, while in quantum uncertainty, we are taking the concept of half bit also.
Any other question from participant side, please? Okay, I would like to thank again